many people in the world who really don't understand. Freedom has many difficulties, but we have never had to put a wall up to keep our people in.
Welcome to the Leo Zagami show. Due to the recent terrorist attack here in Palm Springs, which has really shocked us because I was preparing this show. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning. Christy was...
Where else? I was in the kitchen making pizza.
Making pizza. And suddenly I was shaken.
She was all shook up.
No, well, definitely I was all shook up because, guys, this was worse than an earthquake. It was like boom. And initially, like I said, I thought it was an earthquake, but soon after we discovered this
it took a while though, because as soon as it happened, what it felt like to me was just a big boom.
Yeah, but soon after I said this, after I saw there was no information regarding an earthquake, I said this must be a bomb. But obviously, a bomb in Palm Springs is something unheard of. And apparently, there's been a attack on a fertility clinic. We're going to be showing you some images. In the meantime, we want to thank all those who have tuned in, even if we have anticipated by an hour the start of our show. Because we wanted to also discuss a little bit this attack at the fertility clinic. And then, of course, we will go into the topic of today, which is top secret UFO files and Adam's manipulation genes. But first of all, let's thank our sponsors.
Okay, so this week we have Malgry Zadaminta, Daniel Estes, Christopher Zero, and Vladimir Zapata. Thank you so much for donating. I know it's hard to, donate. You take your hard-earned money and you put it for our show. But I want you to know we really appreciate, especially seeing new people that want to donate. It just makes us feel really good. And I just want to say thank you. And to everybody that bought the book, you've made it a bestseller, and we're ecstatic. So thank you so much. This is the book that has gone the best so far out of all of the confessions and all your books, actually, and my books. So it's done very well. It had a #1 bestseller on it. has 5 stars. So
All
we're all very
ratings
proud
are,
of you. We're all very proud of Leo.
I mean, in the last 40 years, like I said, there has been almost nothing written about the diabolical plots of the Jesuits. And finally, my book has surfaced also in a crucial moment for the history of the church with the arrival of a new pope. Guys, this book, it's a book that, of course, talks about an important subject, because the Jesuit order is not only a group of seemingly innocent priests. They are the ones who control the narrative, the education of the elite, the secret societies, the Freemasonry, the Illuminati, the think tanks. This is a book you need to have, and I really strongly recommend it. I've been, of course, guested by all sorts of shows. I went back also, as you know, on the Alex Jones show, but it's very important that my audience that follows me every week here, the Leo Zagami shows, the Leo Zagami show with Christy, purchases this book, because otherwise, guys, we will always have some difficulty in relating with people who don't get my books when everybody else
can see the people that have not, when they comment and they say these things that they say, and or they ask these questions that they ask, that they either bought the book and didn't read it or didn't buy the book. So, well,
I think that is a great reading, and so I strongly suggest that you get this book so you can finally, you know, I started with this series from the bottom, from volume 1. But if you want, you can also purchase as your first book, volume 12. And then if you like it, you can go all the way down to volume 1. So it's like arriving finally in the control room, the all-seeing eye. It has been #1 bestseller in history of religions, in religious essays, in faith and spirituality, in historical essays. So this new book, definitely, like somebody's just telling here on the chat, very informative and makes you think.
Me too. It made me think too.
Yeah, wow. because you see, it's not, everybody always asks me, who controls who? Who controls the Freemasons? Who controls the Illuminati? Who controls this and that? The World Economic Forum, the Club Bilderberg. Now you finally have a book which is not a conspiracy book, because this is based on facts, not fiction, not hypothesis. So the facts are here. There is 700 footnote citations from credible academic sources. You don't arrive and become #1 as an historical essay in the academic world if you are not, of course, very much serious about what you write, and if it's all, and it's all, of course, verified, certified, from accredited sources. So the Jesuits will have a hard time to debunk it.
Well, nobody said anything so far.
And we have all 5-star reviews, and so which idiots? Nobody has criticized this book yet.
No. Just sometimes I go and see the chat. And
the chats. The chats.
I mean, I see some of the stupidest comments, and if you wonder where you go.
No, but the thing is, guys, when it comes to a book like this, it's very important you understand that not many people have the courage to write books against the Jesuits, because, of course, if you are an academic, you will lose your job. You will lose your job as a professor in a university or in high school or wherever. I mean, you will have no more financing for whatever research you're conducting. They are in charge of the academic world. And in fact, now I want to show you what's happening here in the United States today. The professors at Yale want to go to Canada, out of all places. So, I mean, it's like these idiots want to go to Canada, which is, of course, a liberal country, which, by the way, guys, has a long history with the Jesuits. They were the first ones, the first missionaries and the first people to go up there. And then, of course, it became liberal land, progressive land. And today it's a hell zone where people are completely brainwashed and they keep on voting for idiots, because they actually believe, when they go and vote, that is the best choice. And these people at Yale University, which is controlled, as you know, by the Skull and Bones, we study fascism, we are leaving the US. New York Times runs video of Yale professor fleeing to Canada. So, I mean, literally, these professors are fleeing and going to Canada. And like we said, it's not only those universities which are formally, I mean, who are officially Jesuit institutions like Georgetown, Fordham, and many others, because in America you have 40 education institutes that belong to the Jesuits, but they control everything here. Even in California, they have so much control even over the public institutions, as mentioned by Professor Yamamoto in my recent interview with him. So welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Please come here every week, join us, because we have always interesting things to tell you. And also, please share this video if you are on X. Make it very widespread, because then we can get more interaction. That's great. We are broadcasting, of course, live on Facebook, on YouTube, on a number of channels, on X. I mean, we are trying our best to reach everybody, but of course, we have been.
Everybody doesn't want to be reached.
No, but we have. No, it's not true. It's the problem. It's during the pandemic. We have had some serious censorship, so that unfortunately...
it's very hard to find this show on YouTube. I'm subscribed and I never get any kind of notification. Never, ever.
Well, let me show, guys, what happened here in Palm Springs today, because the images that we got are the ones that really show the effect of this bomb. I mean, it's 2 blocks away from where we live. And so, of course, we felt it very hard. But even the shops in the area, the glasses, were... Check out these images.
It was so crazy. It blew out the glass of this liquor store. Look at this liquor store. Oh, my God. All from this explosion. Poor guy. This liquor store got up from the explosion. Look at this, dude. Crazy explosion. Glass and everything everywhere. Guys, look at this. We are right here. This whole building exploded. Jesus.
One person reported dead, so at least one person reported dead. There is actually even other images from the New York Post that we might be able to share. Here it says, as FBI probes a possible intentional act of terrorism. In fact, the FBI immediately descended here on Palm Springs. Every road is closed. You can see here the images I mean, here, this is like the main road I go through every single day to get downtown, and I live literally 2 blocks away. These are rest of the body on the road.
I'm so sorry, God. It's just terrible.
It's the rest of the human remains were actually scattered all over the road, so it was pretty disgusting. Pretty horrifying, especially because we know this area very well.
Absolutely, it's right down the road.
And also we had, you see, we had
and we felt
relatives who actually rented the place just in front of their not so long ago.
Yeah, my son.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely a place. Which, as you can see,
what evil would do this? What evil?
I mean,
it's just evil.
It's a fertile clinic, so we can imagine that either is a false flag attack, which is highly possible, guys, which means they want to create hate and instigate it through an attack like this, like they did many other times, even on 9/11. Or otherwise, we are in front of some fundamentalist who is against the fertility treatments, but also let's not forget that there can be something to do with anti-abortion, so on. I mean, we don't know yet We don't have a full account, so it's just a matter of speculation at the moment what went on in Palm Springs today. Like I said, I was shocked, and Christy saw me shocked. I mean, she doesn't usually see me shocked when I
was calm.
I mean, I usually, when I have, I mean, we went through many earthquakes together, me and Christy, even in Long Beach, a very big one here, and other times. I never really had the same sense. There was something wrong. And in fact, I said, Christy,
he was acting so weird. He was, he got his bug out bag and put it by the door. And I just continued to make my pizza.
Thank you for the New York Post for this, of course, images. It's been shocking. It's been definitely shocking. I mean, like I said, the last time I was affected by a bomb was in the 90s. It was the middle of the 90s. I was DJing in an after hour in a former church. We were in London, East London, if I remember well. And there was an IRA bomb that exploded in the building next to us. And I tell you, it was very scary, of course. I mean, it was a couple of explosions. It was one after the other. It wasn't only one explosion. So you felt two bombs.
Wow.
I remember throwing myself on the floor. That was the IRA. That was London in the 1990s. As you know, the IRA was always attacking. So people were quite used to it. But of course, it was shocking even back then. But today I had a similar feeling. In fact, when I said there is no news about the earthquakes, then there must be something, and that something was, of course, a terrorist attack to a fertility clinic. It's like somebody's also pointing out on the chat, maybe a distraction for something bigger. It could be a false flag, of course. It could be a false flag because this is like the headquarters of Libtard Central. I mean, here is a place of vacation for many of the Hollywood elite. Many people come to Coachella also for the festival, but they spend their time here. There is all sorts of people have villas from here to La Quinta, including Justin Bieber, just to mention one. But I mean, it can be, I mean, there is really Brad Pitt, anybody. The Kardashians. So I mean, Obama. There is a lot of people that, of course, reside in this valley. In this Palm Springs is well known. We never really suffered though a terrorist attack. So this today definitely seems to be of great gravity. This and it's intentional, of course. Now we know that 50% of the population of Palm Springs is, of course, LGBT. Then we have another 50%, which is minorities, mostly Mexicans that work here as in the restaurants, in the bars, and so on. So that is the kind of mix we have here, aside from, of course, the tourists, which make up a large part of the population during the main season, which is most of the year, because here it's quite hot most of the year.
Today it's really strange out.
Yeah, I mean, it's very windy. It's very windy. So we have an unusual kind of wind, and then suddenly this explosion that, of course, it was very strong because it destroyed what? It destroyed the glasses of this shop.
Blew out the glass of this liquor store. Look at this liquor store. Oh my God. All from this explosion. Poor guy.
Oh man, that
this liquor store got
Then there is a lot of wind, of course, in the background. You can feel it also. You can hear it. Probably by this evening, at least, the news should be able to tell us if it was indeed. I mean, I saw already the first report on the Desert Sun talking about an intentional act. The Desert Sun is the local paper here, and they were talking about an intentional explosion that might be a terrorist attack. 1 dead, of course. The buildings.
They're saying intentional act of violence.
Yes,
so.
intentional act of violence. So when you're talking about intentional act of violence, we are talking, of course, about a terrorist attack here. It's not like, intentional act of violence. It can't be anything else. Here we have the testimony. Let's see if we can play it, if you can hear it correctly from the screen here. Let's see, just a second. He is Lieutenant Mike Villegas from the Palm Springs Police Department.
The chief is going to release. We have an intentional act of violence, right, where there was a car explosion. What we have at this time, one person is deceased. So
there's a lot of wind, so it makes it difficult to hear, but like Lieutenant Mike Villegas is saying, an intentional act of violence. Reporting here from Palm Springs, Leo Zagami, live and direct with Christy, 2 blocks away from this terrible tragedy which saw the death of at least 1 person, the explosion of a car, probably with a bomb, in an attempt to get this clinic, this fertility clinic, to receive a strong message. Now, we don't know who wanted to send a strong message. Hopefully, in the next few hours, we will have more information. In the meantime, guys, of course, today it was a different kind of show I was putting together before the bomb arrived, like suddenly. But before we go into the subject of today, which is a very important subject, because I wanted to relay information about the UFO phenomena and the Vatican, which I hope I will be able to do today. And if I'm not able to do in its entirety, I might leave the rest for next week. I wanted to show part 2. I want to show you guys what happened at the Cannes Festival with this idiot of Bono from U2 and Sean Penn, who arrived with a bunch of Ukrainian soldiers to the Cannes Festival, which this year was really fueled by hypocrites and left-wing acolytes. This guy who often goes to the Bohemian Grove and probably takes it up the rear in front of one of those big trees up there in the Bohemian Grove, is often seen there. He was present there with Sean Penn and all these soldiers. But what I wanted to show you also regarding the Cannes Festival, this year really, it was like the worst scumbags were all together joining in an anti-Trump movie that is coming out now called Eddington. And I want to tell you more about this anti-Trump movie because, of course, we have lived together the pandemic. We had 17 channels removed during the pandemic. We know the truth about the pandemic and how they forced later on the vaccination upon people, vaccination that is still killing or creating problems for millions of people. This actor, Pedro Pascal, quite famous, says, "Fuck the people that try to make you scared." Of course, he's talking about Trump together with Joaquin Phoenix, Emma Stone, and Austin Butler. They were asked if they were worried about re-entering the US after making a film with such a strong political message. Oh.
Well, they should be. You're not supposed to say that.
Well, this film apparently it's in some way treating the MAGA movement as a bunch of crazies in the imaginary town of Eddington in New Mexico during the pandemic. We're going to be, of course, analyzing this movie when it comes out, and it's going to be interesting to see. Before going elsewhere, I want to show you also Joaquin Phoenix starring in this COVID era whatever thriller. What is it? These actors are sick. They are sick. but they said set in sick America. These are the real sick people, privileged bastards from Hollywood who really, I mean, they should just stay in Europe. I think Europe, especially France, I mean, they will find it very good. I mean, Jesuit Europe, as I describe it in my new book, was created, the European Union, by the Jesuits during the Second World War. They united these former enemies, Germany and France, to create this axe so they could control this bunch of idiots who have no weapons, no freedom of speech, no freedom of expression. I had to flee Europe. And so what is written here also about the foundation of the Bilderberg Club by the Jesuits is essential. Volume 12 of my confession, Secret History, Secret Societies, and the Politics of the Jesuit World Order and their Luciferian Court, made up of Freemasons, Illuminati, and so on. Then you have even Angelina Jolie, who had something to say about, she arrived in Cannes, another left-wing acolyte. She was criticizing, of course, Trump's 100% tax on global cinema. Trump wants to make Hollywood great again, but Angelina says she loves global cinema. Anything to make it more accessible is necessary and welcome. Ooh, this is Angelina Jolie. Oh, and of course, this is the kind of people that love, and then in Gaza, and then talking about Ukraine and all that. I mean, these people. Privileged pricks, idiots, hypocrites. God one day will send you to hell. That's just so you know. And then we can, of course, move forward before entering into the topic of the day. What else? We have Trump has let the white Afrikaners persecuted in South Africa by blacks here in this country, and of course the Episcopal Church has is not accepting them, is refusing to resettle white South African refugees. And in this book, I explain how the Episcopal Church, the one that was condemning Trump from the pulpit, is a Jesuit institution that in no way should be supported. And so this is very important also. And then, of course, somebody said, don't forget AOC. AOC, I mentioned AOC in this book because she was presented by the Jesuit America Review in 2018. So read the book and you will know more about it. Now, in regards to Melania Trump, this is a shocking news that comes from Slovenia, from her native Slovenia. Her statue was severed from the base and stolen. These animals are active all over the world. I didn't really like the statue, tell you the truth.
What is it?
I mean, it's supposed to be a statue of Melania.
Oh, God, I'd be happy they took it down.
I mean, I was thinking that maybe Melania herself.
Maybe she did it. I'd do it.
Melania.
Oh, I didn't do it.
Yeah, I think.
I'd chop it off at the feet, too.
Chop it off at the feet, too. So that is news instead regarding Melania Trump. In regards instead to what has been going on yesterday in Istanbul, we know it was a complete failure. There was nothing, 2 hours wasted. Nothing came out of it because Trump, of course, said until he meets, and he will meet soon, as national security advisors have just announced, he will meet soon with Putin, nothing will happen. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, guys, how can something happen with a bunch of incompetent people, and especially warmongers like the ones in Europe, von der Leyen saying that Putin doesn't want peace? Well, this is what Trump said.
Are you disappointed in the level of the delegation that the Russians sent to Turkey?
I don't know anything about it.
No,
I'm not disappointed in anything. Who are you from?
BBC News.
I'm not disappointed. What would I be disappointed? We just took in $4 trillion, and he says, are you disappointed about a delegation? I know nothing about a delegation. I haven't even checked. Look, nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay? And obviously he wasn't going to go. He was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going if I wasn't there. And I don't believe anything's going to happen, whether you like it or not, until he and I get together. But we're going to have to get it solved because too many people are dying. Thank you. You're going to land right now. Thank you.
Great. Trump wants to solve things directly with Putin, and I completely support that. In the meantime, guys, there's a lot of disinformation surrounding this new Pope. yes, because because this new pope said a family is constituted by a husband and a wife, a man and a woman, which is, of course, something that shouldn't even be stated. It's normal. It's God's will on this planet to have a man and a woman, because without a man and a woman, you can't have a child. So the fact that this Pope is now, people suddenly say Pope Leo the 14th is a conservative. No, guys, don't get it wrong. This Pope is nothing. It's the worst kind of guy. Pope Leo the 14th rejected death penalty and chemical castration for a rapist of a 3-year-old when he was bishop in Peru. The scumbag raped a little girl that needed after a surgery to reconstruct her intimate parts, and he rejected both the death penalty as well as the chemical castration of this pedophile. So, dear people who think this Pope has even this much that is good, this is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I have written about it, of course, on leozagami.com, where you can find my latest article on the subject, which I highly recommend for all of you. So when you have time, go on leozagami.com and read this article. Beware of Leo 14th, a wolf in sheep's clothing, ready to fight Trump and establish the one world religion. And of course, a protector of pedophiles, like I already stated from the first day. Now, we can maybe move on to the topic of the day. But the last news I wanted to give is that officially the US will start at the end of the year withdrawing troops from Europe. NATO ambassadors has communicated this. Oh. I completely agree.
So no more troops in Germany, no more troops
in Italy? A lot less American presence in Europe, because it's about time they defend themselves and we finish protecting this bunch of libtards who don't follow the values of liberty and freedom in a continent which is now in the hands of Satan himself, and Babylon reconstructed the Tower of Babel in Belgium, there in Brussels. So, guys, really, we have enough with the European rubbish. They can pay for themselves. They can send their own sons and daughters to protect their land. At this point, they don't share our values. So NATO Ambassador Matthew Whitaker has announced that is what is going to happen. It's nothing personal against Europeans. I come from Europe. But if you don't share our values, I mean, what are we going to do? Okay, continue protecting people in Europe? I mean, there's no freedom of press, no freedom of expression. In Germany, Alternative for Deutschland is threatened because they are simply different. There is a chancellor who seems more Nazi than Alternative for Deutschland, to tell you the truth. And Emmanuel Macron has delivered a speech at the Grand Loge de France 12 days ago, in which he has promoted euthanasia, assisted suicide.
Really?
Here we have Emmanuel Macron in front of the Grand Loge de France. Grand Loge de France was the same obedience that initiated Aleister Crowley. It was also the same obedience that, together with the Jesuits in the 1730s and at the Lodge of St. Edward, and here we go back to my latest book and the chapter of Clermont, they founded the high degrees that eventually became the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. This is the work of the devil, guys. He's talking about laicity, he's talking about secularization. But let's not forget that secularization often, unfortunately, becomes Satanism. And then we have the crazies that, of course, lose it, or we have the false flag, like possibly this is what happened today in Palm Springs. So it's important that you realize, though, that in regards to the Grand Loge de France, it's not recognized at the moment by the Grand Lodges here in the United States, but it was recognized in the First World War. And that means that Aleister Crowley, who is always called, as an excuse, the regular Masons here say, oh, he's not regular, he was initiated in the Anglo-Saxon Lodge of the Grand Lodge de France. But then, in the First World War, it became regular. And so, retroactively, automatically, Crowley, who was a member, will have become regular. So, that's it. In matters of regularity, of course, I don't want to go into it because it's very much a Masonic thing that is not of interest for most of the people who are following us. But to watch this guy promoting euthanasia, assisted suicide, I mean, assisted suicide is,
I just remember they were doing that in Canada.
They would
do that in Canada, or they were doing that in Canada.
Assisted suicide is something the Jesuits also have. Euthanasia, I think I actually. Let me see if I can find the article, but I think that I actually wrote about it years ago because, yes, you were right. Euthanasia in Canada. Christy has a good memory. Christy has a good memory. The Canada guy is very much a bit French, and a bit Jesuit. Euthanasia in Canada is not only legal but encouraged for the poor, as in the film Soylent Green. Brava, Christy. And of course, there was, I remember, even a Jesuit who was somehow supporting this. Here you see. The Jesuit order faced a lot of criticism after a local man received a formal Catholic blessing after Mass shortly before committing medical-assisted suicide in May 2019. So,
wow.
Somebody said, I heard France was the birthplace of Freemasonry. No, it's the birthplace of the high degrees of Freemasonry. The birthplace of speculative Freemasonry is still England and, of course, also Scotland. But if you want to know more, you can always go on volume 12 of my Confessions, or you can go through all my books. Now, I want to talk about this book because we are touching a subject of great importance. And this subject regards UFOs.
Sorry.
regards secret UFO files that are in the Vatican archives, also in regards to a discovery that was made, which I talk about in volume 9 of my Confessions, because the discovery that my friend Roberto Pinotti, now Roberto Pinotti is an old friend of mine who has very much worked with me also in the politics in Italy. I kind of enrolled him when I was when I created my own political movement. I thought that was he's an expert. He's an expert on ufology, and he was the one who actually discovered the documents which I published in volume 9 of my Confessions from Benito Mussolini about the discovery of a UFO during this is the guy. Roberto Pinotti is one of the first ufologists in Europe, and in fact his friend also, Donna Schmidt, a friend from Roswell. In my book, volume 9, I published the documents that hold book up. Okay, this is the book, volume 9. This is some of the documents which I show, which are from Mussolini's time, which confirm that in 1933, there was a UFO that was that crashed in Italy, in the north of Italy, and was then recovered. And then through the Vatican, it was then given after the Second World War to the Americans, who then did some reverse engineering on it, just as they did with what they recovered in Roswell. But there were also, and the Pope involved had also direct experience himself. So today I wanted in some way to talk about this whole thing, because there is two popes that had direct UFO experiences, and obviously people don't know about it. So I wanted to discuss it. And one of them was also a Freemason, not only a pope. I'm talking about Pope Roncalli, who had a very incredible experience in the gardens of Castel Gandolfo. Now, we have a pope that is called Leo XIV, okay? Everybody talks about this Pope Leo the 14th. But what about Leo the 13th? Because he aspired, this name he took from Leo the 13th, of course, mostly he says because of what Leo the 13th was the first Pope to discuss social matters, not only religious matters concerning the workers. However, the difference with the Pope Leo the 14th and Leo the 13th is that Leo the 13th was no socialist and had no left-wing tendencies. So his social critic was never inclined to go on the left like this Pope. So a little bit of a different Pope. The Vatican, let's not forget, actually condemned the Copernican revolution, condemned, there was still claiming the world was flat. The Jesuits were involved in also judging Galileo Galilei. But then things changed. They were really much, the Vatican was torturing and murdering Giordano Bruno for publishing The Universe is Infinite and There is Life on Other Planets. Now, that is a publication very rare. I have here a special edition of all the works of Giordano Bruno, this Dominican friar that was sent on the stake by the Vatican for discussing life on other planets. And of course, these are some of the images of this publication of Giordano Bruno, which is known as Infinito Universo et Mondi. Now it's difficult to check out, but I can show you some of the drawings that he did that, of course, concern this treaty of his. He was condemned as an heretic, even if he was a Dominican friar. Some suspect that in the past he had been working also as an agent against the Jesuits in the court of England when as I explained in my latest book, the Jesuits created the Holy Alliance to fight the Elizabeth I and support the return of the Catholic monarchy. But Giordano Bruno was the guy who first discussed life on other planets. Not only the fact that this was that the sun was at the center, not the earth, but also the fact that there was life on other planets. And they tortured, they murdered him. But then something happened, guys, because there was, like I said, two popes that had direct experiences. Now, one of them actually even met aliens. John the 23rd met the aliens. But going back to, let me rewind here because we don't have much time, but I want to make this a fascinating story for all of you. Pope Leo the 13th, not Leo the 14th, very important, opened the Specula Vaticana. There was the Jesuit had opened an astronomical center right at the time of Ignazio Loyola, as I explained in my book, on the ruins of the Temple of Isis. But then what happened? The Collegium Romanum was the first university of the Jesuits in Rome. Now it's the Università Lateranense, so it moved elsewhere. But they had this big astronomical center on top of it. But then, of course, then you had the problems that the Vatican had, the Vatican States. They were fighting against the Freemasons at the time. But yeah, they were actually fighting against the Freemasons because they wanted to unify Italy, and the Vatican had the whole territory in the center of Italy, separating north from the south. So there was literally a war. And at that point, of course, with this war, the astronomical center, the previous one, was closed down, but then the Pope Leo XIII established the Specula Vaticana. So Leo XIII is a particular Pope, aside from being a guy who used to drink wine made with coke leaves. Yes, with cocaine. It was a very popular
maybe it was
wine.
One of those things. It was just like,
it was one of those things. Pope Leo XIII, like,
I'm
but
sure
the guys.
No.
There is nowadays both Pope Francis and this current Pope who have tea with the coke leaves.
They do it on purpose.
Well, yeah, Mata de Coca. It's a
like
drink.
an energy boost.
It's very much an energy boost, of course. So a lot of people discuss, why did he choose the name Leo? We know that the AI chose the name. He claims the AI chose the name for him, and that is already a bit scary. But in any case, Leo the 13th, who was very active at the end of the 19th century, and who appreciated very much the theological system of Agostino Pippo, and who was a student of the Jesuits, was very much against Freemasonry. That was the only thing that probably makes him different from, one of the things that makes him very different from Leo the 14th, who instead is much more Mason friendly. In fact, Leo the 14th not only is Mason friendly.
Is he one?
Huh?
Is he a Mason?
He is a Mason. He is also, before he became Pope, Leo the 13th was made a Knight of Malta.
Yeah,
And here we are in the initiation. Knight of Malta, as you know, is very close also to Freemasonry. Here is the current Pope. The Knights of Malta, as I described also in my latest book, have been taken over by the Jesuits. So that's why they initiated him. This is the initiation.
Weren't you part of the Knights
I
of
was
Malta?
also, of course, I was also in the Knights of Malta, but I was in the Orthodox one. But I had also, of course, many friends. But at the time, the Knights of Malta were trying to retain and fight for Trump until they were persecuted. And in 2022, like I explained in my latest book, they were actually, my latest book explained this very clearly, that at one point the Pope Francis took over the constitution, reformed the order, and silenced any dissent. So now the Knights of Malta are completely woke. But going back to this connection, the Pope Leo the 13th founded La Specula Vaticana, which is this Vatican observatory, which was created on the there is a Vatican Wall, no? So they had the territory of the Vatican, the Vatican Wall, and they created just there within the Vatican territory this new astronomical center. However, 30 years later, they had to move out of Rome because the visibility in the 1920s with the pollution, with all the lights of the electricity and stuff became too much. So Leo the 13th had to remove the observatory from Rome, and it moved to the present location in Castel Gandolfo. This is very important, guys, because everybody knows very well, I talked about it in the past also, Lucifer, the telescope now known as Lucy on Mount Graham in Arizona, but the information gets relayed always in Castel Gandolfo, which is this beautiful place near where we used to go there in the lake, they're very nice.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what is that place called? Narnia?
Not
Narnia, but what was it called?
It's one of the lakes, Castelli Albani, Castelli Romani, sorry, up there is a wonderful place where we used to go.
Starts with an
lakes. Yes, it's a very nice place. I want to say more because that place for me is magic and it should stay.
I didn't like it.
I liked it. It was a very, very cool place. In any case, in 1891, he established this Vatican Observatory, Pope Leo XIII, and he believed astronomy was a valuable tool because, of course, the Jesuits worked along with him. Now, the Vatican established also, though, this advanced technology telescope in Mount Graham near Safford, Arizona. And this Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope is the one that is used to relay all the information also on Planet X and everything else. See, Mount Graham, Graham County, Arizona, and this is the Mount Graham International Observatory. The Gregorian telescope serving the optical infrared. The particularity of this observatory is that the telescope is infrared. So it gives you a series of specifics that no other telescope can actually give. It's very particular. I mean, the way it works, it has near-infrared capabilities. It has as you know, it was called Lucifer. Now we call it Lucy. Maybe it was too much call it Lucifer. It's known as an integral field unit, allowing astronomers to obtain spectra of spatially resolved regions within all objects. It's also built in collaboration with the German institute, 5 German institutes that demonstrates also, I mean, they are very much into being precise, the Germans, and very much into technology. It is designed to observe and study distant galaxies, including those at early stages of the universe. This is what happens up there in Mount Graham. Now, in regards to the aliens and the Vatican, we talked about the fact that this Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope it's then relaying the information in Castel Gandolfo, which has always been the summer location where the Pope goes, outside there in the lakes, Castelli Romani. So what happens? That there was a Pope that actually had an encounter with the aliens in the gardens of Castel Gandolfo. That Pope was Pope Roncalli, the Pope which was elected in 1958, taking the place of Giuseppe Sirri. But this Pope was a particular Pope because he was also a Freemason. That's why the Freemasons hijacked the election of Giuseppe Sirri. So what happens here? In 1935, this guy had, he had assisted, he was part of a particular event. As he was a Freemason in Turkey when he was a diplomatic nuncio apostolic in Turkey. He was in the lodge, opening the 18th degree, which is the Rose Croix degree of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. At one point, he goes in a state of trance. The worshipful master orders immediately the secretary of the lodge to write down what he says. And what he says in 1935, the future Pope John the 23rd, Angelo Roncalli, is particularly relevant because he says something connected to his future encounter. He is talking about the fact that they are coming. They have already been here and they're coming to contact us. So when many years later, in 1961, he was walking along with his secretary, Capovilla, who, by the way, died not so long ago, and who, Loris Capovilla was his secretary all his life, basically. Roncalli worked with Capovilla. But the incredible thing is that Capovilla was made cardinal only in 2015, a year before he died. In 2014, was announced by Pope Francis that he would be a cardinal. He never talked about this thing. It was kept secret because, of course, Loris Capovilla witnessed at one point these lights in the sky, red, green, and at one point, literally, a spaceship landed in the gardens of Castel Gandolfo, opened up, and this alien with this light around him, which, though seemingly looking as human, but with a special light around him, started to go towards the Pope. The Pope went towards him, and he stood, of course, respectfully back while they talked for 20 minutes. So what happened, and this is clear testimony also made, there is testimonies there. It's not like this is some
But
cases.
it could be a demon.
No, these were, I mean, of course you can have demons, you can have angels. It depends. But from the way, it wasn't a gray. It wasn't a gray. Okay. It was a being surrounded by light.
Well, that could be.
And Loris Capovilla, the secretary, of course, will relay this information. Other people talked about it. It was July. It was an afternoon of July 1961. And I repeat, it was right there where the Vatican has their observatory also, because aside from Mount Graham, they have an observatory also there in Castel Gandolfo, where the Pope spends his summer and where the Satanists go and celebrate satanic masses because they want to absorb somehow the papal energy. There was this whole thing. In fact, I have a whole book about all the black masses they do in the area. However, John the 23rd was described as the good Pope, had this experience. And this experience was eventually talked about and announced publicly in an Italian, very popular publication until the 70s known as La Domenica del Corriere. I remember there was this relative of mine in Sicily used to collect them and then gave them to me. And for me, it was great to read the Domenica del Corriere. It was like a very interesting magazine that came out once a week. And so, but there was at the same time, in the same period, events that were linked, of course, that were discussed 10 years before. There was at least an important event that was discussed, always in relation with the apparitions of Fatima in 1917. Now, the previous Pope had also apparently a Pius XII, the guy who apparently got elements of the spaceship retrieved by the fascists to the United States. And by the way, I talk about the testimony of David Gruge, about also who mentions the fact the Vatican has, but the information mainly comes from my friend Roberto Pinotti, who was contacted and given this information about the fact that the spaceship that was retrieved in the early 30s in Italy was then, immediately after the Second World War, thanks to the Vatican, given to the United States.
Wait, I have to go for a minute.
Okay.
I have to cough so bad, so I'm just going to go and cough and come back.
Go and cough and come back, no problem. So what happens was this, that Pius the 12th had also a UFO experience, but he had it in the gardens of the Vatican. It wasn't a direct experience with aliens, but it was Papa Pacelli, that's what his name, his surname, had an experience of these lights, of this strange dancing of the sun, and then there was this cloud that in a way unleashed this UFO-looking thing that the Pope talked about. And he talked about it in a moment in which there was a lot of discussion about a similar phenomenon that happened in Fatima, because the same day that Papa Pacelli, the future Pope, was consecrated Archbishop by Pius XII, the Sor Lucia dos Santos, and it was basically the one who, with the other two shepherds, witnessed in Fatima something particular. Now, this, you see, in the Catholic tradition, there is a lot of these Holy Mary apparitions.
Yeah.
And they are
like Medjugorje.
Medjugorje, it's another one. And they are all, the ufologists call them the apparitions of the Blessed Virgin Mary as relating to UFO manifestations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in fact, Pio XII, when he saw this event in the gardens of the Vatican, didn't relate it to something necessarily religious, but something instead different. Aside from the fact that then there was also the prophecies that were given in Fatima to the shepherds, the prophecies that were, these messages, including the third message of Fatima, that was not given in its entirety by the church, that apparently was censored because these three children that witnessed the 1917 Marian apparitions in Fatima were also retaining secrets that could damage the church. And apparently Malachi Martin also said that the first secret of Fatima was never given in its entirety. So this is what and we know also what happened to Father Malachi Martin. Father Malachi Martin, one of the very few people who made a book exposing the Jesuits, together with Eric John Phelps and of course to see with the rulers of evil. Very rare that people expose the Jesuits, but also let's not forget that the Jesuits have a history in the astronomical sector, which I myself expose in this book. In fact, here is an image of Guy Consolmagno, the astronomer of the Vatican, who also wrote a very important book about the aliens, in the sense of what should the Vatican do with the aliens. Now, also his predecessor discussed this whole thing, but he wrote a whole book which is entitled "Will You Baptize an Alien?", which is a subject even Pope Francis touched upon. Would you baptize an extraterrestrial? Another question from astronomers in box at the Vatican Observatory, Guy Consolmagno and Paul Muller, S.J. In this book, in reality, we see that the Jesuits tend to believe and embrace the whole thing about the Genesis and the roots that are often discussed, no? The roots, biblical Genesis or scientific Big Bang. And we know that Genesis is also talking about subjects that can be interpreted in the light of a different understanding, the giants, the Elohim, or the Anunnaki, if you want to talk about it in Sumerian terms. This is very important because, you see, we are in front of the human origins of mankind that might definitely not be the ones from the so-called Darwin theory. We know that actually Darwin himself, at the end of his career, after he saw what direction his studies were going, because he was actually a believer, he kind of was trying. He was feeling bad about, saying that man descends from a monkey, it wasn't really. So I wanted to discuss the fact that we have, the Elohim, of course, the protagonists of the biblical tales of the Old Testament, and it's something that might have had, of course, a influence from above. An influence which is the Elohim are, of course, seems like plural. We don't have to then, though, necessarily do like some people say. This demonstrates that man is not created by God. Guys, God uses then other other creatures in the universe to then create us in His image. Now, some people say we have been cloned by the aliens, but guys, in the end, we are a product of God's creation in the universe. No, Christy, don't you think so?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really, some people say.
Well, I don't think that we came from.
Charles Darwin and what he, Charles Darwin and what he has. Darwin's theory vacillates when it comes to human evolution. This is pretty clear. I would suggest that the work, for example, of Ellen Van Bold, professor of biblical exegesis at the Faculty of Theology at the University of Tilburg, who, when interviewed by the Telegraph, has said that God is not the creator. But God is not the creator because she doesn't believe in Darwinism, but at the same time, she doesn't have the necessary capacity to understand that even if we are created by an alien species, let's make it very direct. So without those aliens are themselves creatures of God or not.
Everything is created by God.
Why don't you read
God
this
in the universe?
Yeah, why don't you read this paragraph here a second that I find interesting.
Extraordinary events in ancient texts. We cannot exclude that ancient peoples expressed a reality that was not always clear to them, using words from their own time. Nobody can know whether a mythological corpus might hide a historical reality, but we are convinced that if we look at ancient civilizations as societies devoted solely to the formation of myths, we would not be very objective with regards to them. We cannot expect the ancients to have been able to describe extraordinary events in the same way we would today. They did not possess adequate terminology, and it is not shocking that several events presented with simple words could appear ambiguous and unlikely nowadays. Let us take a look at an example without going too far back in history. We know that Native Americans called the steam train an iron steed. The train was made of iron and enabled people to move from one place to another, just like the horse does. The only method from one place to just like the horse does, the only method of transportation known to Native Americans. With their term iron steed.
The term was a term that was particular.
Okay.
I would like to go just without.
We can learn all about the Native Americans.
No, but let's let's describe instead the hypothesis that comes from India, which are very interesting in regards to the Vimana. Here.
Okay. The hypothesis that several ancient civilizations wrote of the existence of the use of technologies in various fields, military, aerospace, engineering, biogenetics, has always been considered by the majority of the scientific community as a fantastical interpretation of ancient sources that could never find space within official debate. Yet this happened in India during the 102nd Indian Science Congress of 2015 held in Mumbai. This is one of the most prestigious international scientific meetings with more than 30,000 scientists among its associates, including several Nobel Prize winners such as Paul Nurse and Kurt Worthrich. During the section titled Ancient Sciences Through Sanskrit, the former captain of Indian Aeronautics, Arden J. Bondas, presented a paper that theorized that ancient Indian texts reported unusual flying objects with sophisticated technology. Bodhia suggested a scenario in which thousands of years before the Wright brothers built the first aeroplane, the skies of Earth were already flown over by flying machines.
Now, very important, what also happened with Pope John the 23rd, as well as his predecessor, Pius XII, because what happened with Pope John the 23rd, he described, also, he arrived to describe in the most heated moments of the Cold War, 1961, there were also the space race just starting, people want to go on the moon. And Pope John the 23rd, who lived this experience, as we said, in Castel Gandolfo, declared in a cryptic way, from space we could listen to other voices. So a Pope is telling you we could listen from other voices. The Pope who had that experience in the Rosicrucian chapter within the Freemasonry, and he says, but these voices will reflect in any way the voice of our infinite Father. So he has a correct understanding. It's true that Elohim might be plural, but it doesn't mean that we are not created by God. So the thing is this, at one point, George Adamski, and I discussed this also in Invisible Master, where I show this incredible figure, which is Alberto Perego, a knight of, I call him here, you see, I call him the Knight of Ufology in the Vatican. He was witness to something very incredible, which was the meeting. Here is him with Adamski in Trastevere, and a lot of people say, Adamski, he went to Rome, he went to a tourist shop, got a medallion, and pretended he met the Pope. No, guys, there is confirmation from Alberto Perego, and not only Alberto Perego, because Alberto Perego was there with the niece Lou Zinstag, who was the niece of Carl Gustav Jung. I mean, these are serious people. So when you go today on the internet and you go on and put the name George Adamski, you basically come to an understanding which is only partial, because when you go on his Wikipedia, they described his experience with the Pope showing a medallion and saying that he made the whole story up, which is not true. I mean, I show you now the actual post that is on Wikipedia. Here it is. Well, instead, this experience was, you see, this is the medal that apparently, and by the way, a Pope always tends to give a medal, like my cousin also got the medal when he went with Tim Cook there up to visit Pope Francis. It says here, Adamski's spurious golden medal of honor, which he claimed to have received during a secret audience with John the 23rd in 1963. It was actually a real audience. And by the way, for those who don't know, George Adamski was a very famous contactee, not far from here, made contact with the aliens, also in San Diego. And George Adamski founded the Royal Order of Tibet, which was, of course, at the time, one of those orders and organizations that were built around the theosophy, with the Border Science Association of Maid Lane and others that were all involved in linking elements of the esoteric teachings of theosophy and so on with the aliens, because they saw this connection, this esoteric connect with the ancient teachings. And so when it comes to the Vatican, you see, in 1952, we saw this after Roswell. We witnessed on top of Washington a bunch of UFOs, which was quite fascinating. Yeah. But at the same time, in the period, basically in 1954, something incredible happened on top of the Vatican, which inspired the Perego, which then, of course, was in contact later also with Adamski. A bunch of UFOs in the shape went on top of the Vatican. There is many witnesses to this. Is not they formed a cross on top of the Vatican, and was the 6th of November 1954.
Whoa,
that is pretty incredible, no? But then we are in Palm Springs. Palm Springs is not any kind of place. Palm Springs is a place where something really special happened in February 1954. President Eisenhower came here on holiday, but that was actually an excuse. In the middle of the night, he was brought to Muroc Airfield, Edward Air Base, which is 3 or 4 hours from here. And he was brought to, because officially he was in Palm Springs for holiday, no? But in the middle of the night, they picked him up and they brought him to this base to meet the aliens. The encounter reached immediately the Vatican, which was, of course, worried about what kind of interaction there could be between the aliens and the Americans. So the Vatican was always in some way, there was actually a bishop and future Cardinal James Francis McIntyre, who immediately flown to Rome to Pius XII to say that erroneously they claim that he met aliens in Palm Springs, and still to this day you can go on the internet and see. But in reality, he went to meet them at the Muroc Airfield. Though there is, of course, also a connection with ufology here, but we will probably lose too much time and we will go too much.
We have to do another show.
We will have to do another show. When you see the fact that the Pope was informed on the contact that the United States and the aliens were having, that those spaceships had been used for reverse engineering, and that reverse engineering, like I explain in this book, unfortunately becomes the basis of cyber Satan. So the Pope was actually, was the last Pope before the Masonic takeover of the Vatican, because with Ron Cully you started and then the Second Vatican Council. But Pius the 12th was genuinely worried about the fact that the reverse engineering will produce something that eventually will create what we have now, a digital prison. Cyber Satan, which I have dedicated 3 books to, volume 6.66, volume 7, and volume 9, which is this one, which includes also the document of the discovery of the spaceship by Mussolini. Well, this is a very important thing because it demonstrates that an actual Pope had envisioned the danger, that Satan could lay a trap through this technology that was being reverse engineered by the United States. And today, guys, artificial intelligence is in fact the first topic that Pope Leo XIV touched as soon as he went in front of the cardinals.
And the AI picked his name.
And the AI allegedly picked his name. So this is quite interesting. So what kind of secrets is the Vatican archives really, what kind of secrets do they have? They definitely, like, Luis Elizondo, that famous, you see him all the time on TV, that whistleblower from the Pentagon who used to work for this mysterious Pentagon organization dedicated to the study of UFOs. Luis Elizondo, in 2018, went to Rome at the invite of my friend Roberto Pinotti, and he said that the Vatican and Rome have a very special, he said Rome is really, and I'm citing Luis Elizondo, Rome is really important at an international level. When you talk about the Vatican, the Catholic Church, Italy, NATO, the European Union, and even with Russia and the UFO element, Rome has a central role because of the Vatican. And he said that the American authorities know this very well. So now we have Pope Leo XIV expected to visit Fatima. We had on the 12th of May a mass celebrated with screens and everything in support of this new Pope.
Why is he so into the Virgin Mary?
Because, of course, he is following a tradition which is very important within the Catholic faith, but this Catholic tradition inevitably will bring you in contact with the Mother Goddess. In fact, today I wanted to end with you citing these elements from the Mother Goddess, if we can find it, because I want to thank, we have 500 people here following at the moment here. We have another 49 people. We have almost 600 people following us. And so I wanted to cite this thing about the Mother Goddess.
Okay, the Mother Goddess. One day during my Christmas holidays, I had the pleasure of visiting the excellent...
Okay, go directly here.
Okay.
Go directly here.
This cult was global and can be found throughout the Mediterranean
So
basin.
the Mother Goddess is a global phenomenon of antiquity. That's why the Jesuits then picked it up and they built their whole takeover of the Vatican based on the Salus Populi Romani, which is in the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore, where the Pope was buried, is a church built on the rest of the Mother Goddess Cybele, just as the Collegium Romano.
I feel something really strong.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what's that?
This Holy Mary is connected to UFOs, and
Absolutely.
And I feel like this Pope is gonna he's gonna be the one that brings this whole thing into the humanity, and it's gonna be the thing that's the really bad thing. That's what I think.
You think, huh?
Yeah. It's gonna be the thing.
Well said. Let's not forget that Peru, where he was a bishop, is a place of alien contact.
I mean, it's all connected.
Yes.
And then I think everybody also feels that something's coming really bad because we're all connected, because we're all together. We're all part of one, which is God. And so we can all feel it. And it's coming, and something very bad is coming. So, I mean, at least we have you to tell us about it.
Thank you.
So you still want me to read?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. With time and with the migration of populations and the birth of complex cultures, the ancient cult of the mother goddess gave birth to a range of feminine goddesses that left traces in every corner of the world, especially in art, but sometimes even present in modern day religious and religions and culture. The roots of the cult can be found in Ishtar.
But see this comparison. See this comparison here? All the mother goddess, all the mother goddesses.
It's so strong, this UFO connection. All I saw was this when we went to Subiaco.
Yeah.
When I left Italy, though, the UFO thing just completely went away from me, even though we came to here and we went to Roswell and everything. But I felt this like really strong connection. And I actually thought that something was going to happen when we were in Italy, because I've been always feeling things, and I felt it really strong that there was going to be this alien thing that was going to happen. Like we were going to get them in our front yard or something. So anyway, can be found in Ishtar for the Sumerians and Akkadians.
Yes.
Artemis, Diana in
Artemis, yes.
Yeah.
And these are the old goddesses.
And
Artemis,
Aphrodite, Venus
Aphrodite
in Cyprus, Demetria in Ulysses, Bellona in Rome, Morrigan for the Celts, Isis for the Egyptians, Maca for the ancient Maya and Aztecs, Kali for the Indians, and Lilith for the Hebrews. Her presence in our daily lives is clear. It has simply evoked to have a purely religious significance. For example, Christianity has gathered those attributes, names and rituals of the cults of the Mother Goddess in the form of the Virgin Mary. Oh, okay, I get it. I get it now. Okay, but there is nothing original in this transfiguration. It is merely one of many that have taken place for the various peoples and religions. They are all similar and share the same root, which is lost in the dawn of mankind. I understand that I risk being accused of blasphemy, but I leave you to judge for yourselves.
Thank you so much. We might have to return again on this subject, because
it's fascinating.
It's a fascinating subject that it's very difficult now to move forward, because we will probably lose another hour just to go through all the other information which I have also in my books related, like also regarding Zaccaria Sitchin, Gianmario Ferramonti, the Vatican, and everything else. I mean, these are things that require time. But in any case, we also dedicated some time today to the breaking news from Palm Springs, the bombing of a fertility clinic. So we had to,
I'm sure we're all going to hear more about that in the next
absolutely.
few days, so.
Now, I hope that you can all share this. I know that today we have almost 450 people on X. We then have a minor number following us on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble. But please, guys, try to make this video widespread, the most widespread as possible. Put like, continue to support us through the purchase of my books, and of course also Christy's book. Christy, she has a fantastic book on cooking, Zagami Family Cookbook, Authentic Italian Cooking, which I always suggest that you can get, and you will transform your kitchen in a 5-star Italian restaurant. These are ways of supporting, of course.
I wanted to just say also that I wrote 2 other books, Confessions of Illuminati Princess, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And they're like it's like an inside look. It's like the reality story of our life, because I say everything. I don't hold anything back. So, and it ends up being funny because we like to laugh. And so we always try to find humor in even the worst situations. So you'll find yourself laughing and then sometimes crying when you're reading my book. But I mean, it's really, I know it's like terrible to say your book is good, but I think it's good. I read a lot of books. Like those type of books, and I thought it was really good. So
your book,
yeah,
that's good then. That's good. Get also Confessions of an Illuminati Princess, Volume 1 and 2, and we see you next week. Of course, if we get more sponsors, we will be able to come back to you more than once a week, like in the old days, but we need sponsors to do that, of course, my friends. Don't forget the new book, volume 12, which is mind-blowing. And we danced the last dance by Vincenzo Viceversa, who is also the author of this fantastic book cover. So he's very talented music-wise, as well as with with all the graphics. And then we have, of course, the images and the video by our friend Alberto Telepandemia. Take care. See you next week. Box today.
We don't care.
Okay. Don't miss next week's episode.
Technology, social organization, dehumanization. Technology, social organization.